meeting in 1 hour. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So,
Try to keep this to an hour. Welcome
Yeah,
to
me too. I got a trial run I gotta do.
Welcome to the Non-Negotiable podcast.
And today we have James Nelson with us. James, can you introduce a little bit about yourself? What is it that you're doing?
Let me introduce the podcast first. Today's podcast is about weaponizing your boss, as usual. James' special guest. He's actually weaponized himself for a long time, from what he's told me. Doesn't like a boss. And earlier today, we had a talk that, well, what if you're forced to have a boss? Then what? But we're going to talk to someone today who's refused to even be in that position of powerlessness. Very fascinating guest. James, please, the stage is yours.
Thanks, man. That was an excellent introduction. Gotta love that deep FM DJ voice going on there with you.
Oprah Winfrey.
Hey, don't knock Oprah. What's she worth now? 15 billion or something crazy? I don't know what she's worth anymore. So yeah, let's see here. Where do I start history-wise? Oh, should I start with the terrible things or the good things first?
Well, as a negotiator, you start with the bad.
Okay.
You get 3 points for every bad thing you mentioned.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Negative labels, 3 points.
High school dropout, fired 3 times, generally disruptive in any environment that I'm in. I think that's, yeah. Mostly I think those are the kind of the highlights that are going on there. What else we got going on? No, actually those are the big ones. Yeah, no college. Kind of decided to go on my own random path that nobody decided was a good idea but me. Yeah, those are all the wonderful things that I did when I was growing up. But where did that start, really? I think it started with a conversation with a guy that I knew. He did pretty well for himself. He was a multimillionaire in my town, and he had this amazing family. And I was really interested in how he managed to have this really authentic family where they were everybody was really real with each other, and they just seemed to get along really well. And I was like, how do you do that? Like, what's the intention of, like, how did you make that happen? Yeah, I was definitely not using the same words that I had when I was 16 at the time, but something along those lines. And he said that the most critical element of that of having that happen was family, like making that centralized to his life, and then secondarily was time with family. So I asked him, okay, how do you go about having time with family? And he said, well, you need passive income of some kind, because otherwise you're going to be focusing on the job. And I was like, great, that's awesome. And we didn't really continue after that. I felt like I had what I needed, because it was in high school, and I went back that day and I talked with my counselor, and I was like, okay, I need to learn about parenting, and I need to learn about passive income, and I need to learn about just how to do family well in general. And they were like, oh, we don't teach any classes like that. And I was like, okay, so they're going to teach me that in college. Tell me what I need to know to get to those colleges. And they were like, oh, they don't have that either. So I was like, okay, I'm done. Walked out of school that day, never went back. Started on a very kind of different path. I was very focused on finding people that had the success that I was looking for, had that free time, and just asked questions. There was a guy that was driving around in a Ferrari. I followed him one day, asked him if I could take him out to coffee. And I just said, what did you do? And he was like, well, I picked something and I focused on it until it worked. So I was like, oh, okay. He sold printer cartridges, which I always thought was a really interesting, became a multimillionaire selling printer cartridges to schools across America. But my town that I grew up in was actually just, I don't know, I feel really blessed. There was a lot of retired people that were there. My first company was repairing computers, and my name got passed around because I was all right at doing that. And they just kept giving me advice on books to read. Just like, whatever it is that you think you know, throw it out the window, model people, find people who are doing what you want to do, and do that. So I kind of like, that became my focus. It's like, there's this guy, throw yourself into whatever it is, focus on that. And I was convinced that I just need to learn and educate my way into whatever it is that I wanted to do. So lots of seminars, lots of books readings, and till I eventually kind of worked out something, found a business that worked for me, which was in the entertainment space. I started the first membership movie theater model in the world, which I'm super stoked. That was kind of like, got a lot of pride in how that ended up turning out. Helped a couple of my buddies also achieve some financial success in that. And I really felt like after that happened, that that success in that space was really when my life started picking up and happening as a result of the time, the reflection that I had, because I was having this space to discover who I was. Like, what the hell am I going to do with my time? What am I doing today? Wake up and I could do anything. And I recognized that unless I was really excited about whatever I was doing, I wouldn't do anything. I was kind of lazy, honestly, for a while there. And I was just and kept going back to, what am I passionate about? Who am I? Like, what is the core essence of what was making me move? Actually,
Wow.
go back to Daniel's story. You want me? Oh, sorry, Dan. What was
No,
that?
no, well, go to Daniel's story.
So the story that Daniel was kind of alluding to about kind of not dealing with a boss. One of the last jobs I had was working at a casino. And I remember I was on my way to work, and I was just having a really hard day. I actually was crying on my way to work, and I was like, what is wrong with me? Why am I so upset about this? And I recognized that I was building somebody else's dream, and I didn't even know who the hell they were.
Ouch.
And I knew they didn't know who the hell I was. And I was like, what am I doing? I feel like my most valuable currency is my time.
At
I've
what
got
age
limited
was this?
24. Yeah, 24.
Such a young age for that
So
epiphany.
you're 26 now, so that's just a few years ago, huh?
Yes, I'm 26 now. Thank you, Eugene.
Okay, cool. Well, you
Uh,
actually said something interesting that before we kind of lose you in all the depth. It seems to me again that it seems like you're a very curious person from the very early age, and you constantly were looking out for something exciting. Otherwise, you'll just get bored out of your mind. And you've done a lot of cool things. Actually, you asked a guy in a posh car for a coffee. That takes balls. I mean, that takes balls to get for what you really want, and be inspired by someone else and actually be actively engaged in finding out what is it that makes them tick. So, I don't know that too many people who are actually willing to take action on their thoughts. Like, oh, that seems like interesting person. That seems like an interesting situation here. I want to explore that. So the mindset of genuine curiosity. It seems like you had it from the early childhood.
yeah, that's true. I actually, at one point, my mother told me, if you ever have a kid like you, this is the trick I learned with you. When they start asking too many questions, you just tell them you don't know, and then they'll stop asking for a little bit. But because I was obsessive with my questions apparently when I was young. It makes sense. You're right. I was very, very curious, and I asked about everything.
Well, that's actually very interesting, because a lot of kids asking questions, and the question why is the dominant one. And question why is only pertaining to human beings. I mean, no other animal on planet Earth asking why question. There could be why, what, and how. Like, I want to eat food, like a dog. I want to eat. What do? I go, lick my master, and he might give me the food. But why question never arises. I guess that's just my understanding of things. We as a human beings learning through why. That's the first question we ask. Why? And a lot of parents, because it's exhausting, you have to come up with the answer. You have to satisfy that curiosity. It's exhausting. So when you, a lot of parents are just kind of dismissing it. So just stop asking this. Quiet, right? Just abrupt this, eliminate the curiosity so that you don't have to, as a parent, exert too much efforts. But if you say,
I asked a guy in a wheelchair with a patch, why is he in a wheelchair with a patch? An eye patch.
That's some balls right there.
At a Payless shoe store. My mom grabbed me real quick. And the guy was like, he was explaining away. He was like, he looked excited, like somebody finally cared.
Right? That's so funny. There's so much fear around asking questions a lot of times,
Fear.
difficult questions. But honestly, generally the people on the other side of those fear questions are just appreciative that somebody cares enough to ask. And they just kind of feel so lonely, and whatever that is that's going on with them, like just a authentic curiosity in that, not in a judgmental way, just like, how's that going on? What's going on with that? Yeah, totally. That's
Yes.
awesome, Dan. What did you catch any of the answer on the way out?
No,
Oh,
you got me quick.
dang.
Eugene, you got any other questions before we dive into negotiation stuff?
Yeah, cool. Just a quick distinction, really. I mean, the fear actually stops us. The fear of appearing, incompetent, insignificant, or appearing something that they're not. So, in the case of Daniel asking a disabled guy a question why he is that way, mom or the parent or caregiver will be like, "Oh my God, don't dive into that. It's uncomfortable for that person to talk about his disabilities." But most likely the guy, from your side, you were asking it genuinely, like, why are you in a wheelchair? Like, why you don't have an eye patch? So the guy was naturally was inclined to explain and to elaborate on this and to satisfy curiosity, to have the shared experience together. But the majority of times people are scared, and that stops a lot of interaction, stops a lot of the exploration into a deeper meaningful stuff, whether it's a negotiation or just a general conversation. There is always this, I have this question, but how am I going to be perceived? Like, is it an appropriate question to ask, right? And that I guess that leads us to negotiation and how to ask good questions, how to disarm this emotional dynamic within yourself and in your counterpart, so that you can explore more freely, so that you can have that connection at the deeper level. That's it.
Well, if somebody like were to jump in with an assertive tone, are you most likely to shut down or think with your prefrontal as a negotiator?
Are you asking me, Dan?
Any of you? I mean,
Oh.
it's an easy question. Like if I started just, when did you get your job? When did you start working on your own, James? When did you start? Like probably shut down a bit, right?
I used to. There was a moment in the military where I was so frustrated with the way that I was responding and the results we were getting. I tried something different one day and I got a really weird reaction, which was I was assuming that whoever was yelling or being upset about whatever was being assertive. I was in the military and we were on a truck driving around and some guy was just like blowing up at me, and just like that. And I was like, I wonder if this person is just having a bad day. So I was like, are you doing okay, man? It seems like you might be having a bad day. Just really calmly. And tone immediately changed. And he just started gushing about how his wife had left him. And I was like, okay, maybe. So I started doing it after that. I started assuming pain or struggle behind whatever that assertive tone was and responding to the pain instead of the what was on the surface. And I still found that to be a really powerful tool to disarm that kind of aggressive thing. Sometimes it doesn't work, like if there's somebody who's like they're super guarded or whatever, but I find that if I can have like a really genuine, authentic, like I care about you tone when I communicating it, there is a possibility of it breaking through there. Especially like if sometimes I got to push a little bit further, like they'll react like, what the hell are you talking about? Be like, sorry, man, you normally don't communicate like this, and it seems like something might be off. And if you needed somebody to talk to, I just want to let you know I was here. But if you want to yell, I understand.
Well, would you agree? A lot of people kind of get what they want with that methodology.
Yeah, because they're flooding their counterpart, and then it's like that flooded person just complies. Yeah.
So Eugene, shout out to Jonathan. He shot me a DM today, trying to further justify him going crazy on Douglas's counterpart, saying, he even sent me a Black Swan video, and saying, when you flood your enemy or your counterpart with all that, they tend to give you things out of nervousness. fight, flight, freeze. And I'm like,
Unless they're an assertive.
Jonathan, and what happened when you did that to Douglas, who's an assertive? He called security. I wasn't expecting that. And the dogs. Like, yeah, that's the thing is, we've learned through nurture how to get what we want, either through entitlement or, like a beggar type. And I'm still fascinated by that. He was willing to argue that that is a good tactic to blow up on somebody and overload them. And I'm like, did you even watch the video you sent me? They literally said that's not good because now they're in their amygdala instead of their prefrontal cortex.
Honestly, you know what it sounds like is going on with him is there is an element in that of people they really don't want to feel like they're out of control of themselves. So if they have a moment where they feel super embarrassed about being out of control, the logic part of their brain will start coming up with 100 reasons why that was okay. And they'll do it with themselves. And he's probably been doing that since that event happened, like continuously, just trying to reason how he was actually in control of that moment when he wasn't.
I've been like that after mocks where I even told somebody that was hosting the mock, I said, in real life, I do better in negotiations. I do good. And then my counterpart said the same thing. He's like, in real life, I do good too. And yeah, I was ego hurt, right? Because I've been reading negotiations at that time for like a year, practicing a little bit. And these mocks, man, they are nerve wracking. And that's what Eugene and I want to do a little series on what is expected on these mocks, because everybody's well read, but everybody can read about swimming. When you get tossed in that pool, it's a whole different world. And it's good watching. There's some that do take the feedback really good to improve, and then there's some that are it's a little tougher. They want to fight it. Fran, today he even said, "When are you going to post that video? I noticed something about myself." I'm like, "What? You did, Fran? What you notice?" He goes, "People told me even that I said I understand to my counterpart." And he knows, he teaches, we all is you demonstrate understanding. You don't say it. So it was good to see even, someone who's always practicing and proving realized, hey, I got some holes to patch up. Others, it takes a little longer, tougher pill to swallow. And James, I'm glad you're here because I think you're one of them. It was a tough pill for you to swallow from a mock. And man, I love how you came hard on feedback. I said, bring that bus because, yeah, these things should be challenged, right? I was also challenging a lot of institutions, left the military, dropped out of grad school. It's like I'm learning how to build you. All right, I'm learning how to be in the Ivy Towers. But what about me? I want some stuff. I'm not getting stuff. All I'm doing is I'm getting nervous. Now I want some, and I'm depending on someone else. And yeah, these tool sets are something beyond, I feel. James, what's been your experience so far? I know we talked in depth about some of these tools, like staying quiet. What the heck?
Yeah, I was just really curious about that, the element of that. Well, I think
No oriented
overall,
questions. What the heck?
yeah, crap at those right now. I think the
Spilling
overall,
beans. What the heck?
I think the overall thing about the group that I really love is I was actually in the Never Split the Difference group, paid for the classes, went to the group, and I sent out a message at one point where I was like, hey, is there anybody interested in, doing some practice negotiations?
Oh, nice.
And all these people had paid. And I was like, is anybody doing this right now? And if nobody is doing it, I'm happy to start it. And I got crickets.
No
I
way.
waited for a week. And then Joshua popped in and he saw my message and he was like, oh, hey man, you should come check out this community over here and this group that's getting together. And I was like, what are they doing? It's like, well, they're practicing, just like you were asking about. I was like, oh, cool. Okay. So I came in there, and I don't know, I've gone through a lot of training in my life. So I always come in with like super low expectations, just like, okay, all these people are going to have some kind of agenda. I'm probably not going to appreciate what's going on in this space, or
Or are they
all
going to
be
upsell
like,
me?
yeah, like totally. I was like, okay, wait for the
sure.
upsell. It's going to come.
It's coming.
When's it going to come? But I felt like there was just this core element of everybody in there had this just deep desire and natural curiosity. Like, we all just want to be better at negotiating, and we are happy to challenge each other and be challenged and grow. And it's always kind of like a hope in the back of my, like that, like, oh, I hope at some point I run into people who really have that drive to become better, and that they are willing to be humble enough to be challenged and grow. And I was really pleasantly surprised with the group as a whole. And just not only that, but there's that character trait that I feel like is really rare to begin with. And there's just so many of you guys that are in there. But simultaneously, there is like intelligence, creativity, and just a solid knowledge base already that was in there, where I was like, okay, I am accustomed to going into these spaces and feeling like, you know what, I feel like I've spent 10 times the amount of time, and I'm generally going to be the one that's going to be maybe helping in this space. And I'm like, I am learning way more than I was expecting to in this space. So I love it, dude. It's fantastic. And I really am grateful that you guys are both there. I've been, just the honesty and the community that's there. It's like we can have some honest candor going on and grow quickly in that space. And it's just, I crave that, and I look for it constantly. It's just such a rare occurrence that that's actually happening anywhere, because there's so much fear around, like feeling like, oh, I'm going to be judging this person, they're going to be upset about it, like I'm pushing boundaries or something. And there's a fear of actually being honest, or there's a fear of like, these people don't like me, and then like not willing to grow, like that the current ego is more important than growth. There's a value of ego over growth. And generally those two things are so common that it seldomly happens where we kind of get this super awesome, well, yeah, honestly, this is like one of the most awesome groups I've run into with you guys. I spent about $250,000 on my personal development journey, been in a lot of different groups, mastermind groups, seminars, and I've met occasional people here and there, try to start things like this. And this is just, I feel like it's super awesome. There's an organic nature to it where we all just kind of like fell into this, found each other, and there's just such a focus on it. Anyway, sorry, I'm gushing a little bit. I think you guys are awesome.
That was amazing, James.
Oh,
and
great.
You touched upon different things. Mock negotiations are hard. They're tough. I mean, we can talk the talk,
Absolutely.
but once we start doing walk the walk, that's just a whole different ballgame. And it's hard to get on this negotiation rounds and not getting triggered. It feels uncomfortable because when we discussed this too, this is like a public speaking on steroids. Literally, there's like group of people, 10, 15 people looking at you, scrutinizing you every moment that you're in there. Like they picking out the words, the demeanor, the voice, the approach, how you're being perceived. It's just amazing. And, of course, we're talking about negotiations, and negotiation is everything, the conversation that has I want and I can and I need. That's basically a negotiation. But here we go deeper than that. We're actually practicing high impact communication, really. It's not only about negotiation, but how are you being perceived? Are you able to get into the collaboration, or you're just going to get what you want because you're so assertive and so bullish, and you're just going to bully people into submission and still get what you want? It's still considered successful negotiation, but it goes beyond that, because you're talking about relationship, you're talking about rapport, you're talking about long-term, consequences of your actions. And these are the things that becoming really, really obvious once you start getting into mock negotiations consistently and get on the training, because then you get to explore different scenarios in different moods. Sometimes you just come, like for me, the time zone, for example, I come late in the night. I'm tired. I got 2 kids to take care of. So when I come to this and I have to go through mock negotiation and this intense scenario, a lot of, subconscious patterns coming out. So what happens then is that you get to dismantle those subconscious patterns and make the, improvement and change while being under duress and under stress because of how you actually coming into this mock negotiations, right?
So you're saying there's a plan in this doing it late when you're exhausted. Let's go into this exhausted. Oh, interesting. I did not know that.
You guys are both Army guys, right? You know how it goes.
I was in the Air Force. I will not admit to being in the Army because
Marines.
You were in the Marines, Dan?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. See, Marines perspective, I was in the chair force, and I would have to agree. I definitely was, comparatively speaking, with what they had. You guys are tough. Yeah. I would have been terrified if I'd gone through what you guys went through. I don't think I could look through that.
But what's crazy though? Even with 2 tours in combat, when I got here, I had to do a presentation. Man, I had this strain. I even told Gina about it. I had this strain right here. Every time I would have a conversation with a stranger and I wanted something, now I learned that's called commission breath. Like when you want something and they can sense it, and then you get this tension because it's like an elephant in the room and no one's addressing it. So I tried so many things, man. I even tried cabin on weekends, have random conversations. I switched my major from business to communication. Communication is paramount. None of that helped. I would still get the strain. And it was until I learned about accusation audits. Those things you can give any bad feedback. It's like self-humble, and it's been a game changer. A Columbo effect. It removes anxiety and neediness. I think that's the big key right there, is that we see neediness show up in different methods. Today, James, we were chatting, he goes, and I can tell Eli really annoys you. Because I was talking, he interrupted. I'm like, Eli, I was talking, use the dynamic silence. And I'm like, no, James, it's not that he annoys me, it's that I was there and I had a need for attention. So I get where he's coming from.
Can I confess to a mislabel in that moment?
What's that?
Can I confess to a mislabel in that moment?
Yeah, go ahead.
I knew you weren't actually being annoyed with him. I can definitely, at the heart of you, I feel support. Like I feel like you were trying to support every person in that room, even people who maybe like aren't as committed as like some other people that are in there. Like it really feels like you want to encourage everyone and help everyone.
Everybody has
do their
value,
best.
especially the fresh meat.
Yeah. So when I said that was a mislabel. I actually didn't think he was annoying. I think you were trying to encourage him, but I wanted to know how you were actually feeling about him. So
I like him. I just wish he would apply more of what he's learning. Because it's all about, right? Application.
Actually, I'm curious a little bit because there is something my daughter and I actually struggle with a little bit too. Are you familiar with ICD, impulse control disorder? There's kind of like a range of it, but
like shake a leg syndrome. I got a little bit of that.
I don't know about that one. So like there's like a filter that allows us to decide when we're going to speak or not, and when there's a kind of an extreme end of impulse control disorder. Easiest way of putting it is like if you put a guy with ICD or a person with ICD in a situation and there's a button in front of them that says do not touch, they won't even hesitate. They'll just push it and they'll be like, there's just like an impulse to react or to do things. I have that to some extent. My daughter actually does it a lot. Like she will be like, oh, that looks hot, and then burn herself. Like she acknowledges it, and then there's like just an impulse to do whatever that is. So that might be going on at some level. And in some ways, it can be really valuable because one of the biggest difficulties of moving forward is taking action. And somebody who struggles with that impulse, like they struggle with like stopping themselves, generally are better at taking actions than everyone else because they're not thinking about stopping at all. They're just moving. They're moving forward. But they need some direction to make sure whatever they're taking action on is actually a benefit to them. But that can be a strength. It can really be powerful if he leverages that in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's an opera singer,
He's an opera singer?
He's really good. And
I did not know that.
I know with enough time, he's going to really know how to play every instrument in the tool set. So another thing I like about fresh meat is we really get to know if it's working, if it's actually making change. Because, when somebody has a lot of practices, they can be a little jaded. Maybe they're more callous. They give you so much more resistance. But when you go up against someone who hasn't really done mocks and they're a regular person, you really get to, it's like you're really negotiating with a real person. So I'm telling you, negotiating with a negotiator it leads to easy conversation, collaboration. But when your counterpart is a non-negotiator, yeah, you really got to take control. Which leads to the biggest question I hear in every room and cold calling. I even heard it from Fran. Is you weren't matching your counterpart's tone. And James, you know my thought on that by now, right? Eugene, what's your thought on that? Should you, let's say your counterpart is talking really fast and really excited, will you do the same, or would you stick to your baseline?
Well,
and
there are
then
a couple of
go.
There are a couple of things there, really. I mean, it's coming down to cognitive load, especially if it's just the beginning of the conversation. You're kind of disjointed, you're not connected, there is no report. So what you're doing, you're learning about each other. And if you're learning, this is the energy present right now, the high energy, like the person is talking very, very fast, and you want to kind of slow it down, you have to meet them at their level first, at least initially. And then what you're able to do, once you connected at that level, you're able to, pull this energy, move it somewhere that you think might be more productive. And you're doing with your tone of voice, you do it with your labels. And I know that Dan is talking about, like, some people would be resisting it and kind of forcing the other person to move it somewhere. From my side, it is not forcing, it is like a water. Like, I have to assume, like the cup, right? If you pour water into a cup, it becomes a cup. If you pour water into a bowl, it becomes a bowl. So in a sense, what I'm doing when I'm negotiating is I'm matching the energy first, and then I'm slowly asking one or two questions or label it in a more calm, peaceful tone of voice to create a different impact. And then they start to shift. They have to, in order to sustain this conversation, they have to accept it. And then, it will change their state of mind too.
I mean, here's what happened today. This is true. I was at a gas station. I opened my door and the wind caught it and hit the car next to me. And I get out the car and I'm like, I'm just going to ignore it, pretend nothing happened. Maybe the guy lets it go. Right? So he gets out the car. He's like, hey, you hit my car. Now, you're saying, Eugene, you would kind of match that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it really depends on the situation. If someone is attacking you.
Stranger. It doesn't. Stranger. You never met this guy. It's not an attack. Yes. He's just animated, playful, assertive.
Yeah. So what he's really saying is, you're guilty. You're an asshole. You hit my car on purpose, and you got to pay for it at some level, right? And if you meet this with the aggressiveness in the same aggressive demeanor, you're just going to feed into this feedback loop, and the chances that the conversation is going to blow up are much higher. So what you could do in this case, you could give a couple of labels to disarm the situation, to bring it to the conscious level, and saying, hey man, it may seem like I hit your car on purpose, and you probably, thinking that I'm a piece of asshole right now. You probably want to punch me in the face. You're so angry. And then you let it sit. You let it take hold, and you don't need to say it in an aggressive way. You could say it in a really, calm voice too.
So you're not matching.
Huh?
So you're kind of not matching them.
Well, what you're doing, in a sense, you bring it to the conscious level, the emotional dynamic that they're feeling, you bring it into the conscious level, but you have to deliver it in the right way. Like, if you deliver it in an aggressive way, hey man, you're probably thinking I'm an asshole here and I hit your car on by purpose. Haha. It's just going to fuel this dynamic, and it's going to blow up in your face. But you always leading them to where you want to be, that conversation, where you want this dynamic to be, in a way that will enhance collaboration or to resolve the conflict. That's what you have to be thinking in the forefront of your mind. What is it that you want to achieve when engaging in this conversation? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's too much. It's too much, Eugene.
I think in the context of what it sounded like you were saying, Eugene, is that at least one of the things is kind of what to Dan's point is that any conversation, if we are having too many thoughts, there's going to be a distraction on the focus. But it sounds like what you're saying, Eugene, is like the context is really important. Like,
Of course.
there's going to be, we're going to have all of our rules. I mean, that's generally where all of this starts, right? We're going through this training, we're doing these mock negotiations, we're learning N9, but at some level, we, in order to be like, we master the material to forget the material, right? Are you guys familiar with that kind of
Yeah.
mentality?
Even Chris Voss said it himself. He threw all his notebooks away.
Yeah, at some point you get to throw them all out, and that there it becomes more of being very present and kind of utilizing our wisdom to make a decision in that moment. Because with some people, like matching tone in that situation might be the appropriate thing to do. Like if the context was different, like let's say the person that gets out of the car is actually a friend or a buddy, and all of a sudden the context is completely different.
Yeah, no,
because
that's not, again, it's a stranger. I didn't say somebody you know and you have rapport with.
right.
It's a
So
complete stranger. Would you meet them half in their tone or something? Or
oh, when they're being okay. So the
yeah.
scenario is only in this situation with a stranger would we meet an upset tone with an upset tone? Well, absolutely not. That would never make sense in that situation. But that rule of matching tone is appropriate sometimes, not in that specific situation. But I guess that's the point. Is like if we utilize a rule in all situations, we're kind of missing the value of the information within that rule. It's like in some situations it is valuable. That one, not so much. We get to be present and use wisdom in that moment to recognize matching is not what I need to do in this point. I need to bring some calmness, a sense of calmness, a sense of dynamic silence. Is that a good time to use dynamic
Sense
silence?
of resolution. Yeah.
I'm curious if
Easier.
that's actually a good time.
Just
for
hit
that.
him with the late FM.
All right.
Late FM DJ voice. As soon as this guy got out the car yelling, I said, "Your car?" He's like, "Yeah, you hit my car over here." Start walking with him, quiet. And I said, "Yeah. Should we call the police right now and start the report?" No, look, I'll just take your info. All right. Gave him my number slowly again. I'm still in late FM. He goes in his car. I go to the pump. And yeah, internally, I'm like labeling myself like crazy. Like, oh, yeah, no, you feel stressed. Oh, you're worried. It's going to probably be a $250 copay. Oh, man, this is your second incident at a gas station. Man, why don't you just go over there and offer him 50, $100 like the other times when this happened to me years ago, you know? You just be like, hey, here's $100. Oh, it's all good, right? I'm like, man, I don't want any money going in my wallet, though. I'm a negotiator. I'm going to have to talk about this scenario. Shit. I'm like, all right. So then I'm done pumping gas. I get in my car and I'm careful this time, right? No, I'm about to get in my car and his window goes down. And I'm like, oh man. He goes, hey, you know what? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. He said, yeah, it was the wind that did that. Yeah, that wind. And like we do in negotiations and mocks, when someone's like, they get the thing and they're like, what else do I do? Run, go, get out of here. Right. So I'm like, time to go.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
that's why these mocks are great. Is when you get the thing, it's like you're like, I feel bad, I feel guilty, I can't believe I got this. Let me. I had in mocks where it's done. You got the thing, and they go, hey, how about if I gave you $2,000, after the deal? Because I'm like, what are you doing, dude? You like, you didn't split the difference, and it's like, but you want to split the difference, so why are you here? Go around splitting the difference. It makes you feel good. It takes backbone not to split the difference. And I hear a lot of people always saying, split it, meet them halfway. I'm like, what do you turn into a game and not split it and still get collaboration?
There's an element in there of reality, of in their personal reality of how they feel like things work. Like when, I don't know if you like, have you been like when you're in a real negotiation and you're sitting across from the table from another like real negotiator, it kind of feels like game on. Like when you recognize it, they do something that's like, oh, I know what that is. I know what you just did there. You aren't somebody who doesn't know what's happening in this conversation. And I feel like in the context of those conversations, it then becomes we're playing a game. We're playing chess right now. And who's going to win? And if I feel like if it's done well with kind of like an egoless state, that I can walk away from that conversation and the person has totally mopped the floor with me for whatever reason, I can respect that person when I walk away.
Because
I know they're just
joyfully
better
waving
trained.
at them on your way
They're
to
like,
hell.
dude,
Thank
that
you.
was awesome for that. I just got a lesson in humility and how to negotiate better. And I guess on the other side of that, that idea of kind of fearing and splitting the difference is a frame. It's a fear or a worry that this person is not going to like me when we're done with this, and I don't want them to be upset with me because I don't like it when people are upset with me. When it's a completely different paradigm. When you're in the room and you're playing the game, it's fun. That's just my opinion. I think it's fun.
It is. It's a game of
even
chess.
even when I lose, it's fun. But like if I'm in that mindset of when I'm worried about the other person feeling like they lost, then I feel like we're losing out on an opportunity to help like educate the other person just through who we're being on, hey, there's some joy in life in this space that maybe you've never seen before. And I want to show you what that looks like through how I'm behaving. I'm going to have fun while we're doing this. And even if I walk away with all the chips on the table, I'm going to seem like I'm having a good time and I'm having fun and I'm going to appreciate you for playing the game with me. And if you show any indication like, hey, this person would like to learn more, like, how did you do that? Right? Those are the people we want to connect with. Because if somebody comes across the table after we've won and they're like, that was amazing, I would love to learn from you. Would you have time for coffee sometime?
It's a thing. A lot of people are scared to be respected. They rather just be liked.
Yeah, I don't get that. I think that might be just a character or personality thing. Some of us appreciate being respected more than being liked. And that's
I tell
that might just be
people, look,
ingrained.
what's easier? Is it easier to be liked and then respected, or is it easier to be respected than liked?
How do you define respect?
Someone that gets that feeling, man, I can't push this guy over. I tried triggering him. I tried it. Yeah, and triggering him, and it's not going nowhere. Man, I got respect for this guy. He's still here talking to me, even though I told him no. Well, I'm a negotiator. I want you to tell me no. And so, yeah, you start building that respect. You're like, wow, no one's asked me that question that way. I was just talking to my buddy the other day. I'm like, hey, what are you doing, man? Let's BS for a bit. He's like, oh, I'm studying for this exam. I got to get a perfect grade. I'm like, oh, yeah, who are you trying to impress? He goes,
Start negotiation.
right there. He goes, my boss's boss that got me the job. She said that I'm on a roll. I'm an honor roll, and she told them all this stuff about me, and that's why I got the job. And I go, so they only give that position to people with honor roll degree, with college degrees? He goes, no, they once gave it to somebody's nephew, nepotism. I'm like, oh, okay. So then tell me again, you want to get 100 to impress this boss that got you this job because of your education, yet they've hired someone without those qualifications because of nepotism. So that's why you're studying hard. And I'm like, and what happens if you do bad? What happens if you barely get by? Are they going to fire you for that or something? He goes, no, they wouldn't. They'll just, I just want to impress her. I'm like, oh, you want her to like you like that? And he's thinking about it. He goes, you know what? I'm doing this for me. Like, yeah, there you go. Do it for you, man. Don't. What are you trying to like, get someone to like you because you scored high? Like, you already got the job. What are you worried about? But now, with these skill sets, he's been weaponizing all his bosses. It's great the turnaround you can do with this tool set, this skill set, and it's perishable. It does expire. That's why every day I show up one way or another. I ordered a 5-piece chicken at Popeyes, and the guy gave me a free piece. So I got a 6-piece chicken. I ordered 5. Yeah, you know what? It's little. But the guy was happy about it. He was happy to give me that extra chicken. And I was happy about it. You know, getting a little more and everything. It gets even easier and easier every day. Hotel upgrade. I wasn't even trying to get one. The guy suggested to upgrade me. Like, that's always the best. You built that report, and then they suggest the thing you wanted. And let me tell you, that's effortless right there.
Coming back to being liked and being respected, in case of, you know, getting a hotel upgrade, where do you think comes first? Do you command likeness, or do you command respect that makes them or leads them to the idea of giving you an upgrade?
Respect. And from what I hear from mocks, this is why I like mocks, because in the real life, I can't be like, hey, just real quick, I want your feedback on this negotiation. Be like, what? But when you're in a mock, you can get the feedback. And from what I've been told is Shodan's one guy, many other said it's like, you know what, it just felt like the right thing to do. I just felt like giving it to him. Yeah, like people have the capacity to give you what you want. Even more, like you don't know what they're able to do. But here's the scary part is when you piss someone off, they will quickly screw you over than if they love you.
Wow, sorry, one more
so
time.
Like,
what was that last bit?
if somebody hates you, they will move
Okay.
quickly to destroy you one way or another in their world. But if they love you, they actually move slow to do things for you. Yeah.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, because you're talking about they moving slow to do things for you because they know that there's grace in that, and I got other things going on, and we love each other, so you'll be more patient with me.
Now, let's say you hate me. Say I did something real bad. Let's say I really triggered you. You hate me. How would you move quicker than if you love me to do something towards me?
Yeah, you it's a destructive energy. It's easier to destroy rather than to build. And if you and that's coming back to being assertive and people getting what they want using force.
Bingo.
You know, the thing with actually being an assertive, you're actually going down 2 paths. There's 2 possibilities. You're gonna force fear. Well, 3 paths. You're gonna force resistance in terms of anger, or you could hit the pocket of pride. So, you know, fear will get them submissive, and they might give you what they want, but you're going to destroy the relationships. Now, with conflict, like if they're going to resist it, you know, again, it's amygdala hijack. It's not going to be a rational, you know, logical conversation. It's just going to be a fight of emotions, and who might be bigger, stronger, faster to you know, to get in a submission, the other party to submission. Or you could also hit pride, and pride is really powerful because you get to like, let's say you hit someone on the pride, and they're like, they're starting to protect their ego, and they're starting to set the boundary. Ooh, and it could come, you know what I mean? Like it's like, sometimes
sometimes ego is the only thing people have left.
But ego is a protection mechanism. It's really is a defense mechanism to, you know, to safeguard you from whatever they're facing out there. So you're triggering the defensive mechanism. It's not going to get you too far. But you could use this defense mechanism to recruit it, weaponize it, and use it with them, not against them, but with them. Use this energy, protective energy, because it's a source of energy. And if you kind of moving it towards pride and courage and neutrality, that will get you a little bit faster. So you could say like, hey man, even if they angry at you, you could say, man, it seems like you're really passionate. It seems like there's a lot of at stakes here, and you're passionate about getting the best out of the situation. And that redirects the energy towards something more productive rather than destructive. Dynamic silence.
No, it's yeah. I mean, what they say, like the barista, he can give you decaf if he don't like you.
Well, from my side, the story was so I got the contract with the Thai company to help them with marketing and sales, and they don't speak English too well. So I had to, explain to them a lot of the things, and I couldn't know whether they understand me fully or they're just agreeing to be agreeable. Because
I love those conversations.
The meetings were between like CEO and COO and then marketing and sales department. So CEO couldn't say that they don't understand. That will just look weird, right, in front of the team. So there was this dynamic that's really hard to kind of unwrap in a short time that we had, an hour or so for the coaching session. So it felt like to me after we finished the session that it was really productive and people got a lot out of it. And we agreed on the implementation steps. And then day passes, second day passes, third day passes. I don't see anything back. I don't hear anything back. There's just silence. Dynamic silence lasted for 3 days. So, I had to probe for the answers, to find out what's actually happening. And I wrote to COO about the meeting. I wrote to her that, it seems like you didn't get much out of this meeting. In fact, it looks like you felt like it's a complete waste of time for you and the team. I think I throw in like 2 or 3 labels, and within 30 minutes, I got a reply, the whole text in English. Again, they don't speak English too well. That was significant amount of effort on her part to explain the situation. And she's like, no, it's all fine. I mean, that was great. It was fantastic. This is what we got out of it. This is the next steps. This is what the team is going to be doing to implement the solution in place. I was just flabbergasted by the kind of response you can get.
You know what the secret is? That you made it about them and not you. And that's been the number one thing my buddy's been doing with his boss. I mean, at one point, his boss is like, "What is this, the Israel show? Because everything's about you. I did this and I did that and I did this. It was about you and you and you. But yeah, you're gonna get a better response." Earlier, I was talking to James and he told me a personal story, not to share to the public, so I'm going to share it. He was it's interesting. He said he was on a Zoom with the pastor church, and he's like, pastor's like, "Hey, no chat, just focus on me." And James is like, "I'm gonna persuade him to allow chat." He goes, "In the last 3 churches I've been at, pastor, they didn't allow chat, and that's why I left. I want to join somewhere where we can talk with each other and not just the main guy not allowing us to talk the back channel." And he goes, would you be okay with us chatting? Would you be okay with me chatting?" And the priest was like, "Yeah, that's fine." Now, James thought that was a great negotiation, and
You got the content right, but the tone was very different.
Okay, Eugene, dress it up, put lipstick on that pig. All right. What was wrong with that as far as the negotiator goes?
Well, hey, let's do it. Can we do a mock? I mean, right now, can we jump into one? You can be the pastor who's saying like, "Hey, hold all questions to the end. We're not having a conversation right now."
And you're going to be OG James, the original. All right, yeah, we'll see how. All right, well, thanks everybody for being here at the congregation. Real important, no Zoom chat. Zoom chat will be off during this sermon. Okay. All righty. Any questions? Anything
Or
before
one
we
caveat
start?
to this situation is we were actually in person. This wasn't on a Zoom.
Oh, it was in person? Okay. No,
Um,
no talking amongst each other. Just listen to me as I give the sermon.
Hey, Mark, a quick question for you, man. Or do you mind if I ask you something real quick?
Please. Yes, please
Thanks.
ask.
So I know we've kind of we've chatted about this before. I don't know if you remember me telling you, like, I went to like 2 or 3 dozen different churches. And one of the things that I really love about this space, including you, is hearing everybody's thought processes and feedback. When we do this, is there any way we can have this where we get a chance to hear everybody? I love hearing everybody's perspectives, including yours.
Fourth wall break. Didn't you say you mentioned you attended 3 different churches?
3. It was more like 3 dozen.
Did you tell them this in the
context of that, the specific situation? We had actually had that conversation prior, and I was reminding him of it. So when I was talking with you about it, I was paraphrasing what the actual conversation was. When I was talking with him, I was reminding him of the conversation that we had. We're in a small group together, and I see him every Sunday. We all hang out together, and I was pretty sure he had just forgotten about it. And I was letting him know, like, hey man, one of the reasons why I'm here is because I love hearing your perspective as well as everybody else's. Because everybody in that space, they're similarly authentic and real about their perspectives on things. I think he just takes himself really seriously in that space, and I wanted to just kind of remind him, like, one of the reasons why I love being here is because they take turns. The people that are there, they take turns talking or teaching the class, but everybody else, every other teacher that was in the class allows for talking. And he was trying to, like, put the kibosh on that because he really wanted to talk the whole time. And I was just reminding him that we all really do appreciate that. And is that okay if we keep doing it that way? So the content was what you said was very true. That's exactly what those were, the content of what I said. But the tone was one in which I was just trying to remind him of, like, this is what we're here for, man. I don't know if you remember that or not.
So Eugene is just going to criticize content. We're going to say you had the nicest playful tone ever. Was playful tone, late FM? Playful.
It was I generally, when I'm in a situation like that, especially since he was leading, I was going into it with a vulnerable tone, like, dude, I'm sorry that I'm mentioning this right now, but is there a way that we can do this? I really like this. When we do it this way, like, being vulnerable.
You said the word "but" after "sorry."
Said the word "but" after "sorry." Oh, sorry, but
you see what I'm getting to? You see where I'm getting at, right? It's tough. This stuff is so nitpicky.
Yeah.
Right. Mostly
the other
it's
thing,
the tone. Like,
the other thing,
you guys know that's generally where I focus, is like, what is the tone of this conversation? Where's
it's like a symphony. It's a symphony. Tone is, it's a trumpet. Yeah, it's one important instrument. Eugene, you wanted to, what do you think of the content?
Yeah, just a quick observation. I mean, James, the tone of voice is really important, and also where do you draw attention? And a couple of times you say, I would really like this.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? You're pulling attention on yourself. I know. It's hard. It's really tough.
It is. You're right.
The goal is
I'm with you guys, because you guys call me out on
dude.
that.
No, I've been called on worse things, and
that's authentic. I'm actually really do appreciate that.
If you want, we can give you an AA.
Is being awesome at doing all of this stuff, and that doesn't happen without, like, real challenges. James, so I was being totally authentic with that.
You're probably going to feel like we're just judging every word that comes out of your mouth.
Yes. Is it okay that I like that?
I probably think that I get enjoyment out of getting people to tear up.
I actually think you do, Dan.
I think so too. So Eugene is going to keep, he's giving you some more mock feedback here. So yeah, lots of iMessages.
That's great.
The but deletes the sorry. Anything before the but gets deleted. What else, Eugene, did you
just wanted to kind of to wrap it up. So when you say I like it, I want this, you kind of pulling attention on yourself rather than pulling attention on yourself. The more productive thing to do would be to draw attention on the issue. or on the person, right? It's so taking perspective. And then just exploring the issue rather than, you know, pulling attention on yourself and saying, I want this, I know that would be so great, blah blah blah. You know, you touching on, like, you know, it looks like that might benefit everyone if their opinions and feedback could be shared after agent.
Okay, well, help me through this, because there's an element of what you just said that I just kind of like go about, which is they're in a situation like that where I am, if I said something like that, I feel like what I'm doing is I'm using, what is it, social proofing? There's like a term in which I am leveraging the group to get a person to behave in the way that I want them to.
Well, jiu-jitsu, judo, what do you think it all is? It's all leveraging their energy. It's all about leveraging your counterparts.
Right. Result wise, totally. I totally feel like that would work, but I
I feel like that would work. I don't think that will work. Go ahead.
No, I think it would work. I think the result would definitely occur. I guess in that situation, because those people were, or still are, close friends of mine, leveraging the group as a way of getting them to do what I want.
All right, fair enough. How about the your yes-oriented questions? Do you feel they were yes tie downs?
Yeah, totally. After we had that conversation, I totally think that's what it is. It definitely. So the learning the no-oriented questions and removing my I and the explaining, I feel like those are the three primary things that you guys have pointed out.
The explaining, can you expand on that? Because to me, one of my biggest like aha moments, and I get goosebumps just thinking about it, is as a realtor especially, I always felt that if you're not explaining away, that they're going to think you don't know nothing. You have to explain. Matter of fact, I'd be like, can I explain it better than that person explained it? And then when I learned is when you're explaining, you're losing. I go, what the fuck?
What?
No,
yeah, right?
All this stuff I'm reading is just ass backwards to my communication degree, which hasn't served me much. So expand on the explaining.
Actually, there's an element of it I think that I got caught up in for a while, which is the copier experiment. Are you guys familiar with that?
No, do tell
okay,
us.
so the copier experiment, this gal did a study where she went and she would stand in a line of a copier.
Oh yeah, can I copy because, and just the word because?
So just because there's a reason of some kind, it went from 60% to a 93% like better success rate. Yeah. So like there is some truth in the when we explain.
I'll tell you this though.
It's helpful, but
I'll tell
it's
you
also
this,
simultaneously not.
I'll tell you this. If somebody did cut and said because, I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead. I guarantee you, when I walk by that person's desk, I might steal their pen. I'm going to get my time back.
That was outside of the scope of the experiment.
No, you know what? I mean, to be honest, and people are petty like that. Oh yeah, okay,
yeah,
sure.
Yeah, there's consequences for sure.
Yeah,
in operating in that way. But the frame was
report. Report is okay. You can get results quick and get your stuff like that. There's you can stress somebody out, but it's almost going into a land of the unknown. You don't know what they're rolling with that day.
Yeah,
you have no idea. That's why the whole listening to their drivers is key, because once you learn how they operate, then you kind of can know, like, if I do them wrong, man, they operate lawlessly. They're unruly.
I get that. And to do something that I know you don't think is a good idea, spill the beans a little bit. One of the reasons why I'm here learning this is because I often get the results that I'm looking for in my family, with my wife specifically. And then, metaphorically, she steals my pen. So the goal was to resolve that and to try to figure out, okay, obviously, even though I feel like we're all getting along here and the results are happening the way that it seems like they should be, there are consequences for achieving results in a specific way. And if we don't do it in a way that is, kind, was kind of the right word?
In a way to give them the illusion of control and autonomy.
I don't like the word illusion.
You know what? Why. So it's like
if control attached to it.
Yeah, it feels like, hey, let's have a conversation, Dan, and I'm just going to give you the illusion of control. Is that okay?
Well, remember,
I feel like in authenticity,
remember,
if we were being authentic in that,
the deadliest
would not be appreciated.
The deadliest negotiation is the one you don't know you're
Right.
And even so, let's say right now, I would probably tell you, James, you probably think I'm the most inauthentic person you've ever met. Boom, disarmed. Now I can be as inauthentic as I want. I like to say, look, I'm a loose cannon. You probably think I'm a loose cannon. And to me, that's the, the military version of, sir, can I speak freely? When you say that, like, yeah, okay, go ahead, speak freely. It's, it removes that ammunition from the counterpart. In just about every mock, I do say that.
Right. There is an element, in that you're going to think I'm like the, the most inauthentic person ever. That I feel like that there is a good portion of the population that does or can work with. But I feel like
93%.
There we go. Okay. Yeah. So maybe that's what it is I feel like the conversations I appreciate having, the negotiations I end up having, have a tendency of being with that other 7%, because I'm just attracted to talking with or negotiating or operating with that level of people. And that being in that way with them, they might give it to me for a second, but they're going to stay present with me in the context of the conversation and recognize immediately when I'm being inauthentic. So I feel like you're right. That probably works with most of the public. I just like, I know that if I did that with you, like you, Dan, or Eugene, I could say that. And then if I start being inauthentic, your guys' radar is going to immediately pick up on, he's trying to he's trying to mess with my head right now. He's still being inauthentic, even though he tried to disarm me with that. I feel like you guys would pick up on that.
James, I get the sense you're trying to manipulate us.
Yes.
There you go. It always works, doesn't it? Like it makes you stop in your track and then consider where is
that
this
was an
coming
advanced
from?
label, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. On the house.
Oh, by the way, I want to come back to the, if you're explaining, you're losing. That's a tongue twister. I mean, you gotta, it's hard to get this perspective in your own life. Like, how do you not explain and still win, right? It's
on a shortcut, do YouTube videos or bomb videos. Hey, here's me explaining it. Because there are some things you have to explain as a realtor. Hey, what's a comparative market analysis? Well, you can Google it, but here's a link of me explaining it. Yeah, I realized that I don't enjoy explaining. I feel like it's not high impact enough. I'm a repeat, like, what am I, an MP3? Explaining is not, to me, is not connecting. That's for sure. I don't enjoy it. Firstly, I realized that I don't. When I catch myself explaining, I do stop and I just look at them. And I go, and it seems like just don't trust me. That's it. That's it.
Who's not trusting you?
Counterpart.
Because you're explaining?
Because they're making me explain. Dan.
Oh.
James, please. Can you explain that like in a different way one more time? I got to explain it to my wife. And so if you don't explain it to me this way, I don't know how I'm going to explain. I'm like, you don't trust me.
That's interesting.
No, it's not. I mean,
because I think one of the reasons why I struggle with the explaining is I actually love explaining things. There is it feels like a way of taking something complex and framing words around it so that it suddenly makes sense. And that moment of you got what it is, that's right. When I hear a that's right from somebody, I feel like I've heard them well enough to be able to simplify what they were trying to say, and they get it. And that it's like a word game of can I hear this person? Can I simplify it? Can I express it in a way that it just simply makes sense?
That's a summary.
Right.
That's a summary. And the cool thing about active listening, James, and the thing is, you don't need to explain that much. Like Dan gave an example. Can you explain me about this, but from a different perspective? You could just ask, sure, that's not a problem. Can I ask you, what about my explanation that that didn't make sense? And they're gonna tell you,
or they're gonna say
they're going to explain it. Yeah,
I get that. I don't get any of that. What do you say when they say I don't get any of that?
You know what I do? I'm such a jerk. I literally tell people, I'm like, hey, look, I don't know. Go Google it and let's talk later. like, yo, if you don't get it, like, I'm not, go Google it.
Well, what I
Back
was
to
what
me.
was driving at is that you get a chance to get emotional drivers if you dive a little bit deeper to saying, can you explain me, about this from different perspectives? What about this, the explanation that you had that didn't make sense? And then they're gonna tell you, well, it didn't make sense, this and that. So why is this
You're just
important to
collecting
you?
ammo. I'll tell you,
You are.
when I'm the counterpart in a negotiation, the type of resistance I give to people is, hey, can you explain how you lost your wallet? Wait, so can you explain? And they'll do it. They'll explain. This is why I love fresh meat in mocks. It's because, I'm like, I get to have that kind of fun. And yeah, people get stressed when they're explaining. They're not enjoying it. And then you ask, did you enjoy explaining? No. Well, why were you doing it? Well, because if I don't explain, you're not going to like me. What if you don't like my explanation? Oh, who cares if I don't like? What are you worried about that?
Yeah, the cool thing, I mean, the thing about explaining is that now if you are prompted to explain yourself, you're going to have the sense of performance anxiety. Now you have to deliver. Now you have to make sure that you're going to be understood. Are they understanding me? Does it make sense to me? Am I boring them with my explanation? Are they getting it? Like, all of these questions are popping into your mind.
There's a dot. Okay. I think I get that. What it sounds like you guys are saying now. So explaining isn't necessarily help, like, because actually when you said it, that's a summary. I feel like that's the intention of when I'm explaining, but it sounded like explaining myself is more of or like that kind of concept of explaining is more of like
justifying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the context of that is justifying. So I don't ever feel like I'm justifying when I'm explaining. I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm justifying anything.
We're giving
Yeah.
instructions.
Giving instructions or something that's being asked for. Like I need to understand how this works.
Well,
or
since
even
you do
sometimes
summaries,
when
what is a summary?
Summary would be taking the content at the last few minutes and expressing it back in a way, at least for me, how I'm seeing that, expressing it back in a way that the other person says, yeah, you got it. You understood what I said.
Well, what two components are critical in the summary?
It sounds like that if I don't know those two components, that I don't know how to do a summary.
That's right. See, you did a summary. The two components is the situation, which Eugene said, focus on the situation, not on you.
Mhm.
And then the second component is their emotions of it.
Oh, their emotions. Got it. Right.
Yeah.
Because making sure that the person feels like their emotions are understood is super critical to that conversation, like them actually feeling understood.
Yeah, right. That you're demonstrating understanding at that point. A summary is tough. It's required though to get to the behavioral change, the influence. That's good. Like you got a good foundation. Like you said, it's just about tweaking it, going from a persuader. That's what I was in college. We took a class called persuasion. Most packed class. Everybody wanted to be a persuader. Now you're taking it from that to a negotiator. Whole different realm. A negotiator doesn't need anything. He's complete. If anything, you need something.
Need something? I suddenly lost the context of what that was.
So when you're out there persuading,
Mhm.
you typically got an agenda, something to push.
Oh, right. Okay.
And you're so focused. You seen the basketball video where they're passing the ball and you count it. Then the
Mhm.
gorilla walks by and you totally missed it because you were busy counting the balls being passed.
Right.
You seen that one?
It's been a while, but I remember that. It's kind of like recognizing that we miss things that are actually directly in front of us because we're being distracted with something else.
Yeah, we're too busy trying to persuade.
Hmm.
We're no longer listening. We're no longer a negotiator. Now we're a persuader. We're here to get you to do this certain thing. Whereas when you're negotiating, you're just looking for that black swan.
What is the black swan?
At least.
Fellas,
Yeah, Eugene, wrap us up. Take us home.
it's been a pleasure. That's a lot of fun diving into those topics with you, and it feels like we can do this for days, literally. And we are going to be
Seriously.
doing this for days. So James, thank you for coming on and taking out time out of your busy schedule to indulge us in this conversation. And we hope to see you again on our non-negotiable podcast and how to weaponize your boss.
Well, James is unique as our last guest. He doesn't have a boss. He is the boss.
Oh, that's the trick, isn't it? Who is the boss in the conversation?
That's
I would
why.
actually argue that the boss in the conversation isn't a person, but the need of the people in that context. And once that is the frame, that the need of the situation is the boss, everybody gets there a lot faster.
That's
And
why we're your biggest fan.
Well, I think it's a perfect wrap up for today's session. Thank you so much for coming, and yeah, guys, let's
thanks
keep
for
on
having
rolling.
me, guys. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Bye now.